kijken naar wat we die betekenen. Dat is een beetje het idee. Maar voor de mensen die zoals Theo, Martin en Gerard, die moeten ook die tijd mogen besteden. Want die zijn geen Blackboard-producenten. Maar ze werken wel weer op een snel beheer. Dus het is niet een kleintje weer korter.
Duitsland, Scandinavië en de Benelux. En altijd zeg ik waar ik ben. Benelux binnen die regio is absoluut de belangrijkste regio bij deze. Het is erg vroeg vond ik. En ik kom uit Amsterdam, dus ik neem aan dat het voor een hoop van jullie nog veel vroeger was. Dank in ieder geval dat jullie een grote aandacht hebben genomen. Wat ik nog even aan wilde halen is dat toevallig vandaag ook, ik weet niet waarom het dezelfde dag is, hebben wij een grote groep van surf in ons hoofdkantoor in Washington DC, waar ik geloof in totaal 17 leden van het college van bestuur van universiteiten, hogescholen en surf bijeen zijn. Het is een tour rondom MOOCs en Open Educational Resources. En vandaag in de middag en ook vanavond een diner zijn ze bij ons op het hoofdkantoor in Washington DC. Maar dank jullie dat jullie hier allemaal zijn in grote getalen. Ik hoop dat het een nuttige dag is, interessant, maar ook informatief en gezellig. Ik wil graag het woord geven aan Tony Shepard, die een korte introductie nog doet en die hiermee de switch maakt naar het Engels. En als er nog vragen zijn, er zijn genoeg mensen hier van Blackboard, Jurgen Nix en hier, die de aanspreekpunten zijn. Dus een hele fijne dag.
Thank you. I got the switch to English bit. I'm rather glad we got to that point because I was struggling. So, as I suspect one or two of my other colleagues are, so we'll continue in English. Just like to say thank you so much for so many people attending today. This is by far the biggest attendance we've had at this type of event. And outside of our main teaching and learning conference we have every year, this is by far and away a record attendance for certainly for mainland Europe, so appreciate you taking all the time to join us here today. Now, as I mentioned, Tony Shepard, for those I haven't met, I'm Vice President for Blackboard International for Europe, Middle East, Africa. Very pleased to be here today and alongside my colleagues from the US. I think it's worth pointing out that a number of you will have followed recent newsletters and stuff we've done on our website, communications, about some of the changes that have taken place at Blackboard. One of those, for me, very significant changes, and I've been in the business coming up 3 years now, is the investment that we're putting as an organisation into our international business. Before, in all honesty, and it's my fourth American company, so I'm going to say this, Blackboard is sort of international, has been important, but it hasn't had the resource and investment that it's needed. So that's changing with our new CEO, who's been on board about a year now. We're putting further investment in people and a number of infrastructure arrangements we're making to ensure that international gets a much bigger voice. What does that mean to you and your colleagues? Essentially it means that we hear the client better, we communicate better, and this is what this type of session is all about. There's a certain amount of information obviously to pass on to you, but we also want to hear back from you. That feedback's important about how we shape the future of the service that we provide for you.
And the city yesterday was absolutely lovely, and I would choose to live on a houseboat, I think, if I were here, because that looked just honestly wonderful. And as Tony had mentioned, I joined Blackboard about 8 years ago. I worked at a company that Blackboard acquired beginning about 8 years ago. Blackboard acquired my company, which was Illuminate, which is the collaborative technology that is now Blackboard Collaborate. But very recently, as of October 1st, I'm overseeing the product managers who are responsible for all of the platform products from Blackboard that you use. So if you're a learning management system user or a VLE user from Blackboard, that set of products as well as collaborating analytics, our mobile products. So today we're going to take that bigger view, and that really is what Blackboard is beginning to do, is to look at this more globally. But before we jump down into talking about products, I did want to give you a little bit of background around some of the thinking that's going on at Blackboard, and in particular with our new management team in place. So the first thing, we have a new CEO, Tony mentioned, his name is Jay Bott. He joined us at the beginning of the year. And the first thing that he did when he came in is he said, before I start thinking about the details of the business and the details of our products, I really want us to think strategically about what are the trends and the things that are going on in education. And I want to form a vision of where we believe education will be, and in particular higher education, in the year 2020. And while we won't get it all right, he felt like, and I agree with him, that by taking a look, strategically stepping back, and taking a look and forming an opinion, that we will make better decisions that will allow us to provide solutions that actually meet the problems, not only that you face today, but the ones that you're going to experience in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So we tried to do this, again, as I mentioned, from the outside looking in. So rather than look at Blackboard and say, what are all our products and what are they doing today, we said, what's happening in education and where does Blackboard fit in that bigger picture? And not just from a technology perspective, but from what are the trends, what are the things that are happening in people, what are the things that are happening economically, and how do they impact the folks that we do business with, educators, instructors, as well as technologists. And these are the 6 trends that we identified as sort of key things that are going on in education. And I'm sure we didn't get them perfect, and I'm sure we weren't the only ones, but I think that they actually are pretty substantial. The first one, education being truly global, is part of the reason you see us investing heavily in the international market space. And we certainly are seeing the education focus, and even North American education being focused on reaching international as well. Non-traditional learners becoming the norm, another significant trend, and I know was actually brought up as something that you're seeing in needs and market as well. And that's there. And for many of you in this room, that means the Learn product in particular, that we're going to focus investment on the teaching and learning environment and the tools that support it. So Learn, Collaborate, and Mobile, and the things that are used in the classroom and in support of both traditional and online education. Define existing capabilities. One of the other things, but we see user experience across all the capabilities we have today as an important area of focus for our company as well. It's about creating a more engaging, efficient, and delightful experience for instructors, but also for students. So you're going to see some projects here that are focused on that. We have our Vice President of User Experience, Stephanie Weeks, here, and she has a session later on today, which I encourage you, if you have specific feedback or interest in knowing what we're doing in these areas, she's the person to interact with. For many years, the first thing that we're delivering in this area is something that we're calling freely available for you to go out and try out and then to give us some feedback. And we hope to see that the final offering will be something that will allow you to be more engaging in the classroom without having to spend money on additional hardware like student response. Ryan's the guy to talk to about more details. Finally, we want to focus on synchronous learning. This is the area of the product line that came from. I have a heart and a passion for synchronous learning because I believe that to engage students, you have to meet them on their own terms. You need to allow them to interact with each other and with their instructors in real time. So as online programs in particular scale, the teacher or instructor can't always be the one that's providing feedback. Students need to work together effectively and provide feedback to each other effectively. And synchronous tools in particular are the way they're used to interacting. They are used to texting, instant messaging, Google Hangouts, Skype. All of these things have been available to them for many years, and they expect to be able to do those things within the context of their education as well. So first of all, we've delivered the Blackboard Collaborate synchronous learning or web conferencing solution with native mobile applications. We had delivered the iOS app a year or so ago and had already had 80,000 people who had downloaded that application and began using it, and recently delivered the Android version as well, which not only opened up the Android phone and tablet devices, but allows students, even with an inexpensive device like a Kindle Fire HD, to to participate in a live virtual classroom now using that native application and have an excellent experience. These apps are currently available in the Google Play, the Amazon, and App Stores. The native mobile application as well.
It was designed incorrectly or is not functioning as we've designed it. We make the software for you, not for us. So, so please, you hear me now. Spread the word. Sure, there's certainly a scenario where you might say, oh, I also wanted to do this thing over here, and maybe it just doesn't do that yet. But that's different, right? If you can see that the software is trying to fulfill
on your laptop or on your phone, or if you've already downloaded the app, you can go to polls.bb. If it asks you for your location, let it have your location. We won't use it nefariously. We're just going to actually use it to show you polls that are nearby you. And I have started a poll called Blackboard Education On Tour, which you should see nearby. If you have any trouble finding it in your browser or in the app, you can actually search for it as well. It is...
It's a Windows 8 phone.
Okay, and were you able to get to polls.bb in the browser?
So what do I search for? This Android? It's a Play Store?
We don't have native apps or anything other than the iPhone at this point.
Okay.
So if you're on an Android, tablet, or Windows, or anything other than the iPhone, just go to polls.bb/320.
Heb je hem nou?
So we'll move on, and I'm going to go ahead and open the next question. So in this particular part of the point is question number 3. How does your institution use mobile learn? About mobile learning, we'll move on to mobile learning. Again, Polls is totally free as it stands today. Depending on the response that we get and the ideas and suggestions that we get about Polls, we may build out additional functionality in the future that would be licensed, but everything that's offered today is something that is free and open beta, and we hope to keep free at this level of functionality.
End of August, I saw from the poll that a good portion of you are using Mobile Learn. This is what you're most interested in hearing about. So we're excited to have this conversation. Please, you're welcome to raise your hand and ask any questions while we talk about it. You obviously would have noticed that it was a complete redesign for Mobile Learn 4.0. It was the biggest redesign that we had undertaken since the app first launched.
If it shows up in the ideas column, that means you shouldn't hang your hat on it, don't count on it yet. When it's moved over and you see it next up, that pretty much means we're planning on building this thing. It hasn't necessarily gone into development, but if you're trying to figure out where you're investing or what you're planning on, okay, that's something that we really plan to do. When it goes into development, or sorry, in progress, that means, okay, somebody's working on it, and there's probably a timeline around it. There are also questions about
everything on one page, but just exposing it as the user asks for it. I'll click cancel and show you, that was an assignment. What about adding a test? It's the exact same thing. Providing a name, instructions, all the options, any additional options that might be specific to this test that might be different from assignments. So the key, again, looking at consistency, making information available just when you query need it.
Take the priority on mobile devices because your students and faculty are using them every day, because we're all using them all the time, outside and beyond the learning context, to create a mobile presence for your institution. Mobile Central and Mosaic allows you to do that. But the developments with the Mosaic launch earlier this year make it a lot easier for you to do that. No longer do you need the IT department or developers to own and drive and do every step of the process, to hold the keys, to be there every time you need to update the application or update the content within it. Mosaic allows you to have app creation on your own terms, to go from the very beginning to the end of the process without even needing to talk to somebody at Blackboard. If you don't need help, if you don't want to wait, You can go from data validation to the design assets to previewing what the app looks like to the test builds to finally the distribution build that you'll put on the App Store entirely within the web portal of Mosaic. Where you can
And the quality of your experience depended how good your stage was. If your stage was bad, then that wasn't any fun at all. And students are really asking for and driving this flipped classroom concept. So a highly popular request, students will ask to be able to consume the classroom lecture style materials in advance in a video format, especially from a mobile device, in a way that's very convenient to them, so that they can participate in more interactive experiences in the classroom. So the classroom can look more like the classroom on the right, where folks are around tables collaborating instead of just listening to an instructor from up front. We're going to talk about these trends and how they drive some of the things that Collaborate is developing and building for you. And there's just now, so this is a pretty new trend, this whole flipped classroom concept, just now beginning to be compelling research to show that it's actually not only student preference, but it affects outcomes in a positive way. So just very recent study by the University of North Carolina, I know it's not a European institution, but they took a specific program. They weren't willing to buy off on flipped classroom across the institution. They took one program and specifically moved it into a flipped classroom modality. It was their pharmacy programs, folks who are training to be pharmacists to dispense medication. And they saw in just a 2-year time frame, student performance increased by 5.1%. Other institutions, what are you going to do to remain competitive? We really feel like the collaborative and synchronous interactions are part of what can keep your institution current and make you a compelling place, even from the very beginning of recruitment. So we're going to talk about Collaborate much bigger than just a teaching and learning tool, but how it can be a recruitment tool, a retention tool, a way that you provide orientation and open days and things that are part of the bigger picture of what your industry standard recordings like MP3 and MP4s play on your students' mobile devices. So when you look at some of the competitive technologies, actually, we've been doing this for a while. We delivered this in January. And it has just taken off like wildfire, the ability to say, I recorded my lecture, now I want to make sure that it's converted to an MP4 so students can play it from their iPad or their tablet or their mobile phone. Our competitor must have seen that it was a really good idea. Adobe Connect recently also announced this feature, but guess what? They're charging you independently for every block of recording conversions that you do. So this is included in your enterprise license for Blackboard Collaborate customers. If you want to use our native recordings, if you want to use these industry standard recordings, it's just included as a part of your enterprise license. And it has been available in North America since January. It will be this month for our customers who are hosted in the Amsterdam data center. For those who are hosted in our Canadian data center, they already have access to this service. So one of the things that's important about this combination of having a native app for mobile, MP4 recordings, is that we can enable a traditional classroom that's online, so a virtual classroom. Instructors can set up and learn that they're going to have virtual classes. Students can attend the virtual classes from their mobile device. And if they miss or they want to review, they can review the recording from their mobile device. That's sort of a traditional logic. We said, well, how many clicks is reasonable? And they said, none. All right, then. Fair. And so that's actually what we've delivered. They don't do anything to create these rooms. The room is in the course, their office is already created for them. And the instructor comes in and clicks that button, launch course room. A student comes in and clicks that button, launch course room, and they all end up in the same web conference together with nothing. There's been no prep work to make that happen. It's just there. Feedback and to open tickets when you have actual support problems. And I just want to encourage you to do that. And even if you did that in the past and didn't feel like you were heard, I want you to try again and to tell you it is a new Blackboard, that there are people out there who want to hear suggestions. Would you give us that feedback. Tell us how we can improve and how we can do better. Even if it's about the fact that our brand is old-fashioned, which is very legitimate.